I got a couple more Criterions. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. I released part 1 of this holiday Blu-ray haul a few days ago, and now it's time for part 2. While part 1 had a mix of standard releases, this second part is going to consist exclusively of Criterion Collection movies. With only a couple exceptions, I almost always get my Criterions during half-off sales, since they're so much more expensive than regular Blu-rays. Sometimes that means Criterion's own flash sale, but my go-to is Barnes & Noble's biannual Criterion sale. They hold one every April and November, but November tends to be the sale I usually buy from, probably because of its temporal proximity to Black Friday. With that in mind, I have a lot of movies to include in this second part of the haul. Like with part 1, this is a mix of movies that I got during sales at the end of the year or received for Christmas, and is entirely made up of Blu-rays. I've seen a number of these movies, but I would say that the majority of these are films I haven't seen before. Some are ones I've been meaning to watch for a long time, and others are ones I'd either never heard of or only been vaguely aware of. The Criterion Collection's always a sure bet for a mix of those categories for me. So I'm going to go through these in alphabetical order rather than by spine number. Now, I know that might be blasphemous to some Criterion fans, but I think alphabetical is just a little easier in a video like this. If you're interested in getting any of these movies yourself, I do have affiliate links to almost all of them in the description below. I do get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. Alright, so kicking things off, we've got Amores, Perros. And so this is spine number 1060. So this is a very new Criterion release, though the movie came out a while ago, 2000. And so this one is directed by Alejandro Iñárritu. I believe it's his directorial debut. And so this one is sort of an interesting story. I haven't seen it, but I do know that it's set in Mexico City, and that it's one of those stories where you've got these kind of distinct storylines and these different people that are not related to each other in any way, but that their storylines eventually kind of come together and intertwine by the end of the film. So I don't know much about it other than that, but I do like this director's other films for the most part, and, you know, Criterion. Next up, we've got the Bruce Lee box set. So this is spine number 1036. And this box set includes 5 of Bruce Lee's films. So we've got The Big Boss, Fists of Fury, The Way of the Dragon, Enter the Dragon, and Game of Death. So these are 5 movies released between 1971 and 1978. And I actually have not seen any of them in their entirety. I've seen bits and pieces of them on TV, or at least some of them, but I've been meaning to watch most of these films for, like as long as I can remember. So finally having this as a box set, kind of, it's an interesting choice for Criterion, but one that I'm glad they made. And, you know, I'm always a fan of these Criterion box sets, so I'm happy to have this one. Next up, we've got Come and See. So this is spine number 1035. It's a 1985 film, another one I haven't seen, but this one is a Soviet film, a Soviet kind of war movie, or I guess more accurately, anti-war. But this one is supposed to be really good. It's supposed to be kind of one of the most visceral, kind of intense war movies. Again, don't really know much about it other than that. Don't know anything about the story or any of that, and I'm not familiar with this director or any of the names that are top billed here, at least for the actors. But I'm very intrigued given what I've kind of vaguely heard about this movie. Next, we've got Crash. So this is spy number 1059, and this is David Cronenberg's 1996 Crash. So not the one that won the Oscar, but the older Crash. And this one is a film that I have not seen, but it's one I've been aware of for quite a while now, and have been always kind of intrigued by it. Always kind of wanted to watch it, but was sort of unsure if I really wanted to watch it. But it seems interesting, seems very unique. So it's kind of this, provocative car crash fetishism kind of movie. So these people are kind of getting off on getting in car crashes. Kind of a weird premise. I'm sure it's going to be very strange to watch, but it's got James Spader in a starring role, and I like James Spader quite a bit. So it'll be interesting to finally watch this movie I've heard of for so long. Next up, we've got Destry Rides Again. So this is spy number 1024. And is a 1939 movie. This one I gotta be careful with because I can hear and feel that the disc is out of the hub in here, so I'm trying not to move it too much because I don't want to scratch the disc because I still haven't opened it. But anyway, this stars Jimmy Stewart and Marlene Dietrich. Which is kind of funny because I just watched, a week ago, another movie that co-starred these two called No Highway in the Sky, kind of an obscure or semi-obscure movie from 1951, I believe, that starred them. But anyway, this one is a Western. So I've seen a couple Jimmy Stewart Westerns. I've never seen Marlene Dietrich in a Western, though. I've seen her box set collection with Joseph von Sternberg, another Criterion set I got last year. So I've seen the 6 movies in that, but none of them were kind of traditional Westerns. So I'm interested to check this one out, and I'm a big fan of Jimmy Stewart, so I'm happy to finally watch another one of his movies. Next up, we've got The Elephant Man. So this is spy number 1051. This came out in 1980, and this is one of those movies that's kind of a blind spot film for me. I have been meaning to see this film for so long, but have never gotten around to it. So I know it's supposed to be a great movie, great performances. John Hurt as the Elephant Man, Anthony Hopkins is kind of the doctor. I'm very curious to finally watch it. I'm not a huge David Lynch fan of his movies, so that is a little not unsettling per se, but gives me a little bit of pause. But I'm still very curious to finally watch this one. Next up, we've got The Fugitive Kind. So this is spy number 515. It is a 1960 film starring Marlon Brando. This one's directed by Sidney Lumet, who I like quite a bit. I enjoy a lot of his movies, obviously 12 Angry Men. Failsafe is another excellent one. And so this one seems to be sort of, kind of a drama. I don't know how much I'm going to enjoy this one because it's based on a play by Tennessee Williams, and I have found that I don't really like any movie based on a Tennessee Williams play. I've watched quite a few of them, and I'm always left underwhelmed. But I'm hoping that Sidney Lumet's going to be able to kind of bring that up a little bit and make it good. Plus Marlon Brando, so curious about this one. Next up, we've got The Great Escape. So this one is spy number 1027. This came out in 1963, directed by John Sturges. And this one, you can see it doesn't have plastic on it because I actually watched this a few days ago. So the first time that I watched it, this was actually the movie that kicked off 2021 for me. So this was my first viewing of the year. And I really enjoyed this one. This is one that I had known about for a very long time, had been meaning to watch for a very long time, but had never gotten around to. And I'm glad Criterion picked it up because it gave me a little bit of incentive to finally check it out. But it's really good. It's got a great cast. You've got Steve McQueen and James Coburn and James Garner, David McCallum, Charles Bronson. whole bunch of people, and a very interesting story. World War II, prisoner of war camp, kind of escaping from this POW camp, or attempting to, hence The Great Escape. Just a really good movie, and it had some really great special features and kind of supplemental extras, including this little kind of series, sort of documentary TV special about the true story that inspired the book and then inspired the movie. So it was really interesting seeing the true parts and then how it compared to the movie, and things that were changed or held similar, who were the different inspirations for these characters, or these kind of conglomerate characters. So really impressed with this one. I really enjoyed it. Next up, we've got another Western here. So we've got The Gunfighter. So this is spy number 1053, came out in 1950, and this one is another Gregory Peck film. Had a few of his, I believe, in part 1 of the haul videos, but I've never seen this one. I've seen quite a few Gregory Peck movies. I like him. I don't know, actually, if I've ever seen him in a Western before. But I'm very kind of intrigued by it. Plus, it's a very short movie. It's only like 84 minutes long. So it's not even an hour and a half. But it sounds good. And like I said, I like Gregory Peck. So excited to check another of his movies out. Then we've got The Irishman. So this one is spy number 1058. This came out in 2019. I actually have seen this one. I saw this when it was in theaters. It kind of got a limited theatrical run ahead of its Netflix release. And it was pretty good. It's a Martin Scorsese film. We've got a lot of his typical actors: Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, Al Pacino. And so it was a very interesting story. It's not really my typical genre that I tend to enjoy, these kind of gangster films, but it was interesting. I did like it, and I'm glad I saw it in theaters, as opposed to watching it at home on Netflix. But it's in the Criterion Collection now. They've kind of been on this trend the last couple years of releasing new Netflix movies into the collection. Kind of an odd trend, but hey, we get some more movies in the collection. And so Irishman being, I believe, the first one of this this second part of the haul video that I've actually seen before. Next up, we've got another box set. So this is the complete Jacques Tati. And this one has 6 movies in it. So I actually have seen 2 of these films before. I got 2 of these movies last year for the holidays, and they were included in the haul video then. So that was Mon Oncle and Playtime. But I enjoyed them. They were very interesting. They were kind of unique. They're kind of weird movies, kind of comedic, but sort of these... I don't know how to explain it. They're weird. They've got this interesting visual style, just a unique everything, unique comedy, and unique look to them. And I liked them. I didn't love them, but I liked them. So I figured I kind of wanted to watch the other ones in the Hulu series, and just figured I might as well pick up the Blu-ray box set, because this actually has all of the movies that Tati made, including his shorts. So there's 6 films in here. The box set is spy number 729, but each of the movies in here have their own spy numbers. So just kind of going in order. We've got at 110, Mansour Hulot's Holiday, which is the first of the Hulot movies. Then 111's Mon Oncle, 112's Playtime. So those are the 2 I already had and have seen. Then we have gotta move the plastic, at 439, we've got Traffic. At 7:30, we got Jour de Fête. And then 7:31 is Parade. And then all of the Tati shorts are also included in here. So this is a pretty big box set, lots of movies in it. And I'm glad to have this one. Next up, we've got The Lady Eve. So this is spy number 103, though it's a fairly new release by Criterion. This came out in 1941. This one stars Barbara Stanwyck and Henry Fonda, and it's one of those screwball comedies from the 40s, sort of a con story. And these types of screwball comedies from the 40s are a little hit or miss for me. Some of them I really enjoy, whereas other ones, like the Palm Beach Story, are a little underwhelming to me. But I'm hoping that I like this one because it sounds like something I'd like, and I like the actors in it. So hoping that I'm going to enjoy this one. Next up, we've got Leave Her to Heaven. So this is spy number, a lot of glare here, 1020. This came out in 1945. And this one seems like it's kind of a mix between sort of a noir and a melodrama. So I haven't seen this movie, but it stars, let's see, who is in it? Cornell Wilde and Gene Tierney. And so it sounded kind of interesting from, the blurb about it. I've never really heard anybody talk about this film before, but it sounded like it had some potential. We'll see. This is probably the one that I'm least confident in liking of this year's haul of Criterions, but we will see. Next up is one that I have seen, and that's Marriage Story. So this is spy number 1038. This came out in 2019, and like The Irishman, this was a Netflix release. And this was a movie that came out, and for whatever reason has just all of a sudden, right away, made it into the Criterion Collection. I didn't see this one in theaters. I did check it out on Netflix after it had been out for a little while. And it was okay. I didn't anticipate liking it all that much. I don't think I did a review for this one, because it was in that time period towards the end of the year when I was really trying to sort of binge a lot of end-of-year movies. So story-wise, I didn't really like it that much. Relationship drama stuff isn't something I enjoy watching, and, the whole divorce plot line it's not an enjoyable movie, not an enjoyable plot, but the performances were really good. Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson were quite good in this. And even though it's probably not a movie I'll come back to all that often, I'm glad to have it on Blu-ray. Next up, we've got Moonstruck. So this is spy number 1056. And this movie came out in 1987, directed by Norman Jewison, who's put out a lot of movies that I enjoy. Probably the one I like the most is In the Heat of the Night. But this one I actually haven't seen, though I've heard about it quite a bit. So I know it stars Cher and Nicolas Cage. And it seems like kind of an odd selection for the Criterion Collection, but I'm not unhappy about it. It's a romantic comedy, and I've been kind of meaning to watch this for a while. So again, having it be in the Criterion Collection is a great excuse to finally get around to watching it. Next up is The Naked City. So this is spy number 380. Came out in 1948. I have not seen this one, but I do know that it's kind of this noir crime police procedural type story set in New York City. And it's one that I've heard a lot about, not in terms of the plot or anything that actually happens, but kind of more the reputation of this movie, just, that it's good and that it exists. So I'm glad to finally have it, and I'm really curious to actually check it out. Next up, we've got another movie that I have seen and I have reviewed, and that's Parasite. So it's spy number 1054. Came out in 2019, and this was actually my favorite movie of 2019. So I really enjoyed this film. It was a really interesting blend of genres and kind of like a genre shift that was unexpected. So this one's directed by Bong Joon-ho, who's put out a number of other movies that have had varying success in the US, but I think Parasite has probably leaped to his most well-known, especially given the Oscar wins in last year's Oscars. And so this one I'm really excited to watch again because I've only seen it the one time in theaters, and it's one of those stories where like knowing what happens later on and knowing the ending could kind of influence how you view the rest of the story. So I'm excited about that, and I do love that this is a Criterion with a slipcover, or more of like a slip box, I guess. But I've got it in plastic, so I can't really pull it out to show you, but basically this is a cutout. So these dots, we've got the full artwork underneath, but the dots are actually Morse code for Parasite. And so if you've seen the movie, Morse code kind of comes into play a little bit in the story. And so that's represented in the slipcover, which is pretty cool. Next up, we've got another fairly new release, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So this is spy number 1034. Another movie that came out in 2019, but this one I have actually not seen, though I've heard so much about this movie. Again, reputation, not story-wise. But it's one I've been meaning to see, especially since I watched Ammonite this year, which I've heard has a lot of parallels, but is not as good as Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So I'm really interested to see if this one actually ends up being as good as its reputation and hype would indicate. Next, we've got Taste of Cherry. And so this one is spy number 45. So this is actually a very early Criterion Collection inclusion. Came out in 1997, and it's an Iranian film. So this, I believe, was the first film from Iran that won the Palma d'Or. And so I have not seen it. I don't really know all that much about it, other than it's kind of this examination of sort of tradition and mortality and choice and like taboos and kind of an interesting story. And I don't think I own another film from Iran. So I'm excited to finally have one and to watch it. Next up, we've got The War of the Worlds. So it's spy number 1037, and this movie came out in 1953. And so, similar to last year's haul, I got The Blob, which is another 1950s kind of sci-fi movie that I had heard so much about and had never gotten around to seeing. And amazingly, I've never seen this original War of the Worlds. I knew it existed for a very long time. I've seen the 2005 remake, the Tom Cruise one, and I actually really like that movie. But I'm super interested, super curious to see this original one, and kind of see how similar it is and how goofy it might be. The Blob was a little goofy to me. I don't know if this is going to end up coming across that same way. But 1950s sci-fi, kind of hard to go wrong with that. And last but not least, we've got Wildlife. So this is spy number 1031, and is another fairly new release, or recent release. 2018 is when this movie came out. So this one is directed by Paul Dano. Stars Carey Mulligan and Jake Gyllenhaal. And I have not seen this one. I've kind of vaguely heard people talk about it. I recognize the name more than anything else, but I don't know the story. I don't know kind of what actually goes on in this movie, but I do know that it's a period piece set in the 1960s, which is something I have a tendency to really enjoy. And so I'm curious about this one. It seems like something that could potentially be good, or it could be one of those sort of artsy, drawn out dramas that ends up being kind of frustrating to me. So I don't know which of those two categories it's going to fall into. Hopefully the first one. Alright, so that was part 2 of my 2020 holiday Blu-ray haul. Part 1, which was the non-Criterion half of the haul, is already available, so please give that one a watch too to see the other movies and TV shows I got. So, did you get any Criterions for the holidays? Seen any of the movies I got? Let me know your thoughts and all your pickups in the comments below. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insider information out of this haul video, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe to see more videos like this, as well as movie reviews. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainely Movies, the way life should be.